On this edition of the program, Joe Biden has survived his coup from inside the party, but now has a growing medical scandal, and we take a sullen walk through his electoral chances with Evan Scrimshaw. That and so much more. It's all coming up. Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for July 10th. 2024. Your old pal Justin Robert Young, although this will be out on July 9th because the news don't last these days. So as soon as I chop, prepare it, I'm getting it right to you. I am like a political hibachi chef. There's not going to be a lot of time between me cooking it and you guys consuming it. Justin Robert Young here, Austin, Texas, blah, 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 blah. Here's where we are. If you expected sitting Democratic politicians to march to the White House with pitchforks and stab them into the heart of Joe Biden's candidacy, well, you're disappointed. Despite two alleged letters being circulated throughout the House, strong commentary in private meetings, and a scuttled Goldwater meets Nixon reckoning from Mark Warner, it turns out that the emperor does have new clothes after all. And so after 12 days, as I speak to you right now, of Biden watch, I am downgrading it to simply a Dems in disarray. Now, that does not mean that Joe Biden is out of the woods. No, the last 12 days have opened up something that may be, in fact, much larger. And that is a medical scandal. This is something that the White House has been fighting off for months, if not years. Questions of exactly how put together Joe Biden is and whether or not he is falling victim to age-related neurological disorders. Let's all go back in time and remember the Her report. That was an FBI explanation of why they weren't going to be bringing charges against Joe Biden for bringing classified documents he didn't have any right to have in his home into his home. They said they weren't going to bring charges because Joe Biden was a kindly old man with a poor and failing memory. Democrats went apoplectic. Joe Biden, in a stunning moment of foreshadowing, decided to take an unnecessary press conference and embarrassed himself, therefore making the situation worse. And Democrats, by and large, fell in line. They defended Joe Biden against the villainous Her. That is no longer happening. Questions of cheap fakes, that there are disingenuously edited videos that are making Joe Biden look old, those aren't mentioned anymore. There was a 90-minute version released at the behest of the Biden campaign. No, it's no longer controversial. Joe Biden's old, and he doesn't walk the way he used to, nor debate the way he used to, and those are official lines from his campaign. But the one thing that he said in that Raleigh press conference is that he knows how to tell the truth, but does his press secretary. She caught the ire of a humiliated White House press corps who feels like they've been strung along with a lot of these questions for a while.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're asking me.
Kennard, come to the White House.
But I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names. We have to.
Others he would have met with.
We cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
It's public.
I understand that.
I hear you. Right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
The doctor.
We have to keep their privacy.
It is public information.
I hear you.
And you're going to allow this to fester longer, Karine, unless the White House answers the question.
Hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What are you missed about? What are you missed about?
Everything he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean it up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that. He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president has a couple times a week. A couple times a week.
Now in regards to Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not sharing confirming names from here. It is the security reasons. I am not going to do that, Ed. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here. That is not something I am going to do. What I can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times.
That's CBS's Ed O'Keefe and Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. And what they're arguing about toward the end is why a Parkinson's specialist showed up to the White House 8 times in the last 8 months. Jean-Pierre spent the entire press conference saying that she could not confirm that a Parkinson's specialist, let alone that specific one, which is on public White House logs, ever saw the president. That was until last night when there was a statement by Joe Biden's physician saying that indeed he did see the president once in February as part of a neurological physical. Karine Jean-Pierre, as well as the White House, has said that Joe Biden has not seen anybody for any kind of neurological checkup since. That does leave the lingering question as to why the Parkinson's specialist was there the rest of the 7 times, which led to this moment.
Oh, well, I can tell you this. Just going back to Parkinson's for a little bit, so to give you some answers here. Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on.
It's the kind of declarative statement that would be humorously bookmarked by the Always Sunny in Philadelphia title card saying, "The gang confirms the president has Parkinson's." Let's abstract this for a second. The problem for any president is that a scandal will continue to spread. More specifically, if it happens over 48 hours. Right now, we are in the process of getting into our 3rd week of talking about whether or not Joe Biden is indeed all there. Joe Biden's health, his mental cognition, is a real and clear present danger to not only his campaign, but his administration and legacy. What is wrong with Joe Biden? How many people know about it? How much do they know? And who has been hiding it? The things that get you in trouble are when the questions are specific and your denials are thunderous. A lot like Pierre's were. Unrelated, here's a board-certified neurologist who was on NBC Tuesday morning.
You noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, oh, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinsonism is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold, hypophonia. a small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen, if we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks sometimes. It's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that, so little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And end block turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this. So, yeah.
But I also know, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? It's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
It's one of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
Right,
but it's so clinic. There's very little other. And I'm a Democrat. I always say about this.
Right.
It's just like, this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to take a lot of tests.
It's early on. If you're just presented with like hallucinations, that could be a variety of things, or just the cognitive problems. That could be Alzheimer's versus Parkinsonism, and that becomes a little nebulous. But once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right?
Slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
So let me ask you, you're a Democrat, you're a doctor. You sound like you're frustrated with what the White House is saying.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because, I'm an American before everything. And I look at it and say, when I used to see Russia, Soviet Union, North Korea, when they just make outrageous things, like when North Korea can't keep the lights on and they say, oh, it was some faulty power thing. I kind of hate that kind of stuff. They had 4 years, my own party had 4 years to find, this was a wreck in slow motion. And they had 4 years to find, out of 350 Americans, one person that could take the place. And here we are the day before school trying to do the homework and replace a guy who's got a neurodegenerative disease.
Dr. Pitt.
So, Biden watch is over. I don't believe that the Democrats are going to push him out of his candidacy, or at least this particular push has fallen short. But are we done talking about his age? And could it indeed spiral into a major damaging trust event, not only for Joe Biden and his campaign, but also for the Democratic brand itself? Yes. And if you're not paying attention to that, you need to have your head examined. This is your update brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And guys, we are getting these things out ASAP. Patrons have already gotten the rundown of the Sunday shows. That is where Washington talks to itself. And let me tell you, over the past 2 weeks, the conversations have been interesting. Not only for what is said, but also who isn't saying certain things. Not a lot of Biden defenders on the Sunday shows. They save their powder for Monday, and it looks like they have gotten their way thus far. Head on over there right now. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. We'll get more into what you get. But first, the news. House Democrats held a private caucus to discuss President Joe Biden's future on Tuesday. The meeting revealed deep division in the party. Some lawmakers, including Representatives Seth Moulton, Lloyd Doggett, and Mike Quigley, called for Biden to step aside, citing concerns about his impact on the ticket. However, a larger faction, including Biden supporters, Representatives Juan Vargas and Lou Correa, stressed the need for unity behind the president. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries emphasized unity in his opening remarks, but allowed members to express their views openly. Despite hopes for clarity, the meeting ended without a consensus, leaving the party in a state of limbo and internal frustration. One representative says, we are not only not on the same page, we are not reading the same book. I think this rebellion has quelled. We do not have the same momentum that we had at the beginning of the weekend, and that's exactly what you want if you want to survive it, if you're the Biden administration. That being said, there's always tomorrow. And that is a problem for Joe Biden right now, is that narratively, this is just out there. And it only takes a little bit of a scratch of the surface to bring it back up again. Also, we're going to get into it with Scrimshaw. A lot of these people are worried about their phony baloney jobs, and that's the fastest way to get a politician to get off their tush and do something. Former President Trump is close to announcing his running mate with an expected reveal before the Republican National Convention. The president spoke to Sean Hannity of Fox News on Monday night, saying that the announcement would come soon, although he'd prefer it to be on stage during the RNC. Trump is reportedly focused on Senators Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Vance and Rubio were on the Sunday shows, saying that they had not heard anything from Trump and are still in the dark. Additional candidates, including Representative Elise Stefanik, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, have also reportedly been considered. The campaign has kept details tight, with Trump himself as the final decision maker. We'll get into this with Scrimshaw as well, but I think it's Burgum time. Finally, longtime Oklahoma politician and former U.S. Senator Jim Inhofe has died at the age of 89 in Tulsa. Inhofe died at 4:48 a.m. after suffering a stroke on the 4th of July. He's surrounded by his wife, Kay, and 3 surviving children, Molly, Jimmy, and Katie. The Republican lawmaker was a fixture in Oklahoma politics for more than 50 years, ran for public office 51 times, including 48 of those races. Inhofe once held Oklahoma's one of his 2 Senate seats since 1994, serving 5 terms in office before retiring in 2023. He also served in the Oklahoma House of Representatives, the Oklahoma State Senate, and as the mayor of Tulsa before going to the federal House of Representatives. While in the Senate, Inhofe served as the chairman of the Armed Services Committee and the chairman of the Environmental and Public Works Committee. Inhofe, a longtime aviator, once flew a small plane around the world and passed the Pilot's Bill of Rights. Inhofe said in his farewell speech in November of 2022 to the people of Oklahoma, "I really thank you for what you have done for me all these years. Thank you very much. I love you guys." Inhofe, the longest serving U.S. Senator in Oklahoma history. I always like to do these things for the history buffs, because you can't have paid attention to American politics over the last several decades without, at some point, just by accident, running in to Jim Inhofe. So rest in peace from everybody here at PX3 to the Inhofe family. TakePoliticsSeriously.com is where you need to go if you want to get your bonus episodes. And guys, coming up on a milestone. I believe we will hit the highest number of people that are listening to Patreon specific episodes. If the trend continues, may or may not happen in the next few days, will you be the person to push us over the top? Head on over there right now. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, $3 level. Get you 2 bonus episodes each and every week. If you would buy me a cup of coffee each and every week, so I would talk politics for you for an additional up to 2 hours, well, the only place to do it, TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Get a custom RSS feed, put it in the RSS reader of your choice. Also, now in video form. So if you want to watch it live on your television, on your phone, you get the unlisted YouTube videos, and you can see me do this exact thing that I do for you guys in living color. Thank you. Now, let's go ahead on over to Evan Scrimshaw. On Friday, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., in speaking with George Stephanopoulos, tried to save his campaign by demonstrating a steady hand, but it has entered into a new world, one that is fairly unfamiliar for Democrats, and that is poll denialism, the steadfast refusal to believe what the numbers say, and you can't blame them. Joe Biden is the first Democratic candidate since Al Gore in 2000 to be behind in national polls at this point in the race. And so, for talking polls, we got to bring in one of our favorites, Evan Scrimshaw of The Lines. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me. Wish I was going to be here to say better things about my my preferred side of American politics, but happy to come on.
Well, really, and that's kind of what I want to talk about is just where we are in the polls right now. In general, this is about the time that, I criticize Biden there, but this is usually about the time that polls wind up becoming more of a political football anyway. You start to get more of the dug in, well, they're not recognizing and blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to set the race here now for everybody. As you see it, where is the presidential race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden? Let's leave out anything that might happen at the convention because I don't think it's going to happen. But right now, those two men, where are we at?
Joe Biden is probably 5-ish points away from a win number in the Electoral College. He's down nationally. Even if you think, maybe some of the post-debate polls, could be non-response, could be whatever. Okay, so have the impact, he's down, 2 on average in the 538, but let's just use that as the number. If all of this age and race depolarization ends up happening, maybe he can win the Electoral College in a D2 environment. He would have needed about a D3.5 last time, but let's say a D2 for the sake of it. So yeah, 4 or 5 points away, which in theory isn't that big of a deal. You mentioned these, July polls, first time since Gore, a Democrat, was losing, but like most of these elections have had a pretty sizable move between the July 9th polling average at Election Day. Remember, 2008, Lehman Brothers was still a, allegedly financial bank.
Yes. That changed quite a bit.
So in theory, Biden is not that far away from his win number. He's not that far. He's certainly within the normal range of movement. And in theory, the line is Labor Day is when people really lock into their choices. Okay. That's the in theory, and that's the if we think Joe Biden can actually run a. So
that right now, just so everybody's clear, that's the sunny way to look at it.
Yes.
Gotcha.
The pessimistic way of looking at it is that Joe Biden's losing the national, is suffering a 6 to 7 point swing in the national popular vote from last time. He's losing in every swing state. Democrats are now increasingly convinced that like New Mexico, Virginia, and Minnesota are in play, let alone the core 7 swing states, which frankly, given that, North Carolina probably shouldn't even be called a swing state anymore. And Democrats are seriously contemplating running a guy who has openly admitted that he needs more naps, less travel, and can't do events after 8 p.m.
Not great, Bob.
Not great.
Not great. I want to stay to the numbers here because there's certainly been a lot of kind of lashing out. Here's my thought. It's not just the national number, although in general, what smart people, including yourself, have repeatedly said that I have drilled in to my pundit brain is that in the modern American Electoral College, a Democrat needs a +2 advantage at the minimum to win, just because of how population is distributed, that you're going to rack up more in California, Illinois, and New York. So you're going to be higher in the popular vote than you would be in whatever you can do Electoral College wise. That seems to be the case here. Not only is he not doing that, he's running behind. If you look at what has happened in the Sun Belt, not only have these numbers been bad for him, they've been really consistent. And there is less and less of a conversation in states that turned the election for him in 2020, including Nevada and Arizona. We're not even talking about Georgia in the same way anymore. It is all about those Rust Belt states. And the thing that keeps coming back to my mind, Decision Desk put up a video a couple months ago that, hey, if both times that Donald Trump's run for president, he's overrun his polls, specifically in the Rust Belt, in state polls, specifically in the Rust Belt. If you have the poll the how far he overran them, especially in states like Wisconsin, then this is possibly not close. We might be looking at a blowout as it stands right now. Doesn't mean it can't change, but holy crap, if you're starting from there and you look at what has happened with the Biden campaign, you're really down to hopes and prayers.
Yeah, and if I want to be a Democratic optimist, I can rebut the polls will be wrong in the same way 3 times in a row point, with the fact that generally speaking, polling misses are much more likely to invert than stay the same, mostly because pollsters are more likely to overcorrect than insufficiently correct, which we see in the UK. Conservatives beat their polls in 2015 massively. Labor beat their polls in 2017. So, it's definitely, that could be true, could be false. But then again, betting on Wisconsin polls, betting on Democrats to beat their polls in Wisconsin does feel a bit loosey with the football.
Yeah.
And then you get to this question of so you're losing, the polls are getting worse, not better. The trend line's going the opposite way that you need it to. Okay, well, that doesn't seem good.
No.
You have to play a much smaller map now because, frankly, as much as it pains me to say this, as somebody who, salvaged a decent portion of whatever reputation I have after a bad 2020 in Georgia, repeatedly being correct about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, those 12,000 votes that Joe Biden won the state by won me and a lot of people a lot of money in 2020. So that also helped.
Here we go.
I can't say Joe Biden's competitive in Georgia right now, barring major developments. Nevada, polls in Nevada are generally garbage, and Democrats did pretty consistently beat their polls in Nevada throughout the 2010s, but that seems off the board. And so you're talking about
number one, Harry Reid's not walking through that door anymore in Nevada or Nevada rather, and we've actually seen pretty accurate polling there. If you look both in presidentials and in Senate races and off your Senate races, the polling's actually been pretty good. Yeah,
Trump beat his polls in 2020 in Nevada, and the polls in the CCM Adam Laxalt Senate race were very good. And then so what you're basically looking at is an electoral map where Michigan is a must win, Pennsylvania is a must win, and then you need one of Wisconsin and Arizona. And that assumes that you don't that you don't secretly lose something over the side. You've got Tina Smith doing her best Susan Collins routine, which probably means she's a little bit worried about Minnesota.
Yep.
New Mexico Senator, is it Martin Heinrich? Not gonna lie, senators' first names are not always my strong point.
And that's the other thing. All right, here. So let's actually get where I really wanted to spend the most of our time, and that is down ballot, because not only does that tell us what we're looking at in terms of the Senate map, but I also think it's informative to the moment that we're in right now politically, because the people that are going to be the loudest to Joe Biden or to the Democratic Party are going to be, first, House members that are constantly up for re-election. And so they are going to be the most panicked because they are the closest to their election day. And then senators who are facing a tough headwind. One of the things that has been in the a feather in the cap of the replace Biden camp is no matter what, Donald Trump is leading. There was an AARP poll that literally came out this morning in Wisconsin. Donald Trump up 6 in Wisconsin. That's a nightmare number for Democrats. That is wakes you up in the middle of the night level terror for Democrats. But you are seeing the Democratic senator there, Tammy Baldwin, run 5 points ahead of Eric Hubdy, the Republican challenger. So the issue is that Democratic politics are actually fairly popular, especially in these swing states. It's Joe Biden that is unpopular, or Donald Trump that is more popular, however you want to do that. You have in the past, when you've been on the show, said, don't read too much into that because eventually these things kind of revert to the mean. Is that still your opinion?
So generally speaking, these kinds of big deltas between senatorial candidates, especially in presidential years, and this has gotten more and more so the case every presidential cycle. Those numbers tend to converge sort of closer to the middle. It's much harder to get, the 10, 20, 30-point over performances that used to be routine. When Heidi Heitkamp won in North Dakota in 2012 as a non-incumbent. We all forget this. Like in 2012, it was still normal for Senate states to split their tickets. In 2024, it's not. It's not. I mean, Susan Collins is the only person to win splitting their ticket from the presidential race in the last 2 presidential cycles. But the thing is that if, at least in this case, there would be a reason for people to not want to vote for the top of the ticket Democrat that doesn't apply to the Democrats down ticket, right? Yeah. Which makes it slightly more plausible. It doesn't guarantee it's true, but it makes it more plausible because at least there is a reason somebody could plausibly say, I'm going to vote Trump or RFK because I am not electing a dude who's going to be 86 in his final year of the term. But I like Tammy Baldwin. She's good at her job. Whatever. But you're really seeing it's notable that the swing state members in the House and the swing state senators are the ones who are the most concerned, right?
Yes.
Jared Golden and the Democrat in Washington's third, both said Biden's going to lose. That's just tough shit, basically.
That seems to be, and I wonder, as it appears that the insider rebellion has kind of been quelled or at least blunted in DC for now. There is an agreement that indeed the emperor does have new clothes. So I wonder if the new middle ground is what you just mentioned, the idea of, well, Joe Biden's going to lose. I'm not saying he should be replaced. I'm saying he's probably going to lose, which is out and out fatalism, but isn't demanding. At least it doesn't make you a coward for demanding that he be replaced when he's not going to be.
Sure, but it's also something that is incredibly, or at least has the potential to be incredibly self-fulfilling, right? Not to sound like a massive old person, because this was literally before I was born, but this is what happened to Bob Dole, right? Which is Republicans didn't think he could win. They spent the last 3 months of the campaign being like, well, Bill Clinton's going to win. Elect me as a check on a second Clinton term. Bob Dole ends up getting basically iced by the entire Republican establishment. Bill Clinton wins the landslide that he got in part because Republicans killed Bob Dole's campaign. Like,
for the record, Bob Dole, who was largely killed for being too old and for calling the Los Angeles Dodgers the Brooklyn Dodgers one time, was 73 years old. That is 5 years younger than the youngest candidate in this race, Donald Trump, who is 78.
But the thing, so we say that, the palace coup, whatever, is delayed. It's delayed for now. And so we're recording this Tuesday, which feels like a notable thing because developments are developing. What happens?
Yes, and this will come out Tuesday because none of this news keeps. Like it is the McDonald's fries of news. Everyone needs to eat it immediately.
For sure. So I think he has the NATO press conference on Thursday. The NATO summit this weekend?
Because they're running out the clock. And that's the one thing that nobody is talking about with this, is that they just want to eat time.
So that's what if the press conference on Thursday is a disaster?
They're just going to sit on it, and it's going to be the Republican convention the next week. That's
what if one of Keir Starmer's allies, I assume Starmer's flying in. What if Tim Shipman in the Sunday Times has a 2,000 word long read about how Biden is incoherent after 5 o'clock? Which feels,
it's foreign press. That's there's nothing that they can't weather right now, and as long as the Democratic body is not rising up to do it. And right now, what you saw on Monday was Joe Biden saying, I am not quitting. If you want to push me out, understand this is a murder-suicide. That you are tanking 2024. I'm not tanking 2024. You are. So you can go ahead and damage me as a candidate to the point where it's unfeasible for me to continue. And guess what? I probably still will because I'm Joe Biden and I don't care. But you will not shame me. You will not coax me into these West Wing great pageantry scenarios where I am lulled into a reason to do this. I can only fan fiction write why I think his motivations are the way they are, but his actions were very, very clear. And he did it at the top of the news cycle in the morning. He did what I said he should have done a week ago and called into Morning Joe and sent the letter and dared him. And what happened? They melted. They buckled like a belt. Mark Warner said, oh, what meeting? What Goldwater to Nixon meeting? I was never going to do anything like that. So, yeah, will this be an issue in the presidential cycle? 100%. But I think what we saw was the limit of the resolve of the Democratic populace to push him out.
So what we actually saw was a whole lot of people, by their own definitions, commit treason. Because if you believe Donald Trump is actually the threat to America, to American democracy, that they have all been telling us he is for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And you're leaving the guy that privately you're all leaking to Axios and Punchbowl and Politico can't do the job. And you're just gonna let him sit there because you're too cowardly to go on the record. Then you've committed treason. That's actually what we saw on Monday.
But this is the problem with this campaign, dude. Like, they don't have the issue. The reason why this has compounded on itself, and we're getting to the point of like, okay, well, Joe Biden's answer on the ABC interview with Stephanopoulos was criticized when he said, oh, well, if I did the goodest job, which again, yet another verbal flub, but the substance of it, let's take it at his word that if Donald Trump won, I would feel that if I did my best and I really put forth a good effort, that's what I would be required to do. That's a problem because you have centered Donald Trump as a unique, corrosive, existential threat to the history and survivability of American democracy. And that's fine. That can be an element of it. Certainly January 6th gives you the window to do it. But when you don't build up other policy things that are going to happen, specific policy things that you need another 4 years for, specifically on issues that animate your base, like abortion, like healthcare, like Medicare, like any of these things that have reliably moved Democratic voters, when you don't have specific policy proposals, then when you have slip ups, you don't have anything to go back to. None of the bedwetting Democrats can say, well, I think Biden's shaky. I don't agree with how his campaign is running, but blah, needs to happen. They just don't, they haven't laid it out. And so when you reach down in the bag of reasons why I'm going to be a well-behaved Democrat, you got democracy and your standard bearer just said, I don't know if I do a good job. Like, so yeah, I think that there's a lot of betrayal. There's a lot of disillusionment with the Democratic base, especially the questions around Joe Biden's debate are not only, I think, the lingering ones, which is what's wrong with Joe Biden and who's been hiding it, but from the electoral perspective is you just sold us that Donald Trump is the worst ever. And this is who you're sending. This is our champion. He said he finally beat Medicare. What's going on?
And so I have 2 points to this. The first is, one of the things that you could use to animate this campaign, of course, would be the prospect that Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas are both old and deeply old, and they could kick the bucket in the next 4 years. That we could get to do to Republicans what they did to us in the first Trump term. Except Clarence Thomas is what, 77, 78?
Yeah.
So if we accept the premise that Clarence Thomas is knocking on heaven's door or hell's door, in my personal view, but whatever, that
either way, he'll take an RV.
You can't really have 82-year-old Joe Biden on stage saying that Clarence Thomas might die, so vote for me. Which seems bad. But so there's a palace coup thing happening in Canada too with Justin Trudeau, and I'm not going to bore you, but Trudeau lost the special election in a seat he had won by 24 points previously, by-election, whatever. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Liberals are annoyed. And he has to call more by-elections in the fall in Liberal-held seats, and the Liberals are going to lose.
Yeah.
And the argument I keep making is, okay, so we don't do anything now. We give him till October. He calls those 2 by-elections that he has to call. We lose both of them, which he's going to do, which we all know they're going to do. And then we're going to have the leadership contest then, when he's just lost 2 more by-elections in embarrassing fashion. So why don't we just skip the part where we wait 3 months and just do the thing that we all know we're going to have to do? So what's the Biden campaign's response? Because he's going to have more age flare-ups. He's going to have more senior moments. They're talking about him not being able to do, like him basically ceasing to function after 4 p.m. How is he? What happened? So what happens in a week? Let's say the NATO, he survives the NATO summit this week intact. Something's, and maybe he just doesn't do any media next week because it's the RNC. Yeah. Okay, cool. So in 2 weeks, he has to start campaigning again. What happens? What happens when he says we're going to beat Medicare again, or we did beat Medicare? What happens when he
says he's the first black woman vice president?
Yeah. What happens when he screws up foreign leaders again?
The same thing that's been happening. I mean, that's the other thing is that in his cleanup,
so Joe Biden loses the presidency. Then great.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I made the argument on Substack that Democrats need to understand he's not going to step aside, and that I made the argument that for the Democratic Party, they're eventually going to have to realize that they're going to have to vilify Joe Biden one way or another. Unless you believe that he's going to win this election, which at this point, I don't. I think that there could be a credible argument to be made that this election, 2024, was lost in the first 10 minutes of that debate. And it was a all-in moment from the Biden campaign, one in which they pushed all their chips in to try and change the narrative of a race that they knew they were losing. And not only did it not happen, it happened in the exact opposite fashion. So that's damaging. If we actually think that campaign decisions matter on some level, and we actually believe that narratives that voters have in their heads matter, then cementing your candidate's greatest negative on national television in a moment that you called, you decided every factor of, is tremendously damaging. And I do think that by the end of it, we could say this is where it ended. And so let's follow that logic. Let's say it is. Eventually, you're going to have to bury Joe Biden. This is just the law of politics. Someone's going to get the blame for this, especially how much you built up Donald Trump, and you're going to have to do it. My argument is do it now before, in a way that you can make the story about Joe Biden keeping secrets rather than anybody in his cabinet having kept secrets for him, because that leaking out hurts your bench. It hurts Kamala. It hurts Pete. It hurts other people that you want to be the future of your party. I made the argument that they should turn up the heat on it and even make Jamie Comer famous, make the oversight committee famous, start talking about Burisma, start talking about James Biden. Because if you don't, you are only delaying the inevitable, and you are only building in what I think has the capacity to be a Watergate, Iraq level mistrust in your brand with the American public. Because this is not going to go away. And when you have Corinne Jean-Pierre saying, we said this in the A block, Corinne Jean-Pierre saying he doesn't have Parkinson's. He's never taken medication for Parkinson's. He's not being seen for Parkinson's. And you got neurologists on NBC saying this is a textbook case of Parkinson's. Like, we're getting into some dark territory of who knew what when. And to your point, he's not a challenger. He's the president. He's dealing with issues that people care a lot about, including Gaza, including Ukraine, including everything that he's talked about, reproductive rights. These are major issues that at some point the Democratic Party is going to have to wrestle with the idea that they let this go on too far with Biden.
I mean, and the thing is, you're gonna have senatorial and congressional candidates who are staring down the barrel of 4 to 6 to 8 point deficits for Biden, trying to win. You know, Democrats have to defend Senate seats in Arizona, Nevada, Montana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania,
West Virginia.
I mean, West Virginia's gone, but you know, Michigan,
but to your point, this is the worst map that the Democrats are going to face in probably 2 decades.
Right.
Like that's just the way that the dice roll in the Senate. Sometimes you get a good map, sometimes you get an okay map, sometimes you get a bad map. This has been known as the worst map that they can face. And the fact that this is a top of the ticket cratering potentially is at maybe the worst time, because this could put serious points on the board for the Republicans. I mean, they could be looking, you know, on the outside projections. If seats like New Mexico's are in play, this is crazy.
I mean, like, I think Democrats probably have an ability to isolate the damage to the top of the ticket, but that is a theory, and I could totally see a universe. but the thing is that I could totally see a universe where Republicans win 55 Senate seats, which is not a thing I would have even remotely considered on the table 3 months ago. And if you're Democrats, you need that number to be as small as possible, not just for vanity, but part of the problem for Democrats was that they let 2014, they let the rope slip on 2014 so badly that they didn't just lose the 2014 midterms that night, but they also lost the 2016 Senate, right? Yeah. They let Trump have 52 senators for that term because they lost Colorado, and they lost a 2-point race in Alaska that Mark Begich could have won, and they let North Carolina slip out of their hands because Obama refused to do anything to help black turnout. Like, you have to minimize your losses here because it's a 6-year Senate term. A 6-year Senate term, and frankly, if you're Democrats, and the best case scenario might be Trump loses, maybe you somehow win the House on Mike Johnson's a crazy person, and the New York lines are maybe kind of slightly better. They're not even really, but maybe. Like, the hope would be, survive the first 2 years, and then 2026 in a red way, in a Republican presidency. Oh, that's a good Senate year. Maybe we pick up some seats, and we sort of limit him. We limit the damage. But the problem is, if Slotkin loses in Michigan, if Baldwin loses in Wisconsin, if Jackie Rosen loses in Nevada, it's not just bye-bye Senate majority in 2024, which, both of us think is going to happen. It's bye-bye Senate majority in 2026. And it would need a big Democratic year in 2028 to come back, because the other thing is there's 2 theoretical seats Democrats could win maybe in 2028. So, we're talking about potentially, a pseudo-decade of ramifications of this, all because Democrats refuse to do the thing in public that they said. Because let's be real here. Nate Silver made the point, and I've had my many issues with Nate Silver in recent times, but he has been on fire on this one.
He's been on one. I think. Yeah, so Substack Silver has been a treat.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, this is why I'm glad he had a second act, because I'm not always going to agree with him at this point, and some of his concerns and some of the things he focuses on, I find a bit, I frankly just don't care about some of the things that animate him in his, I guess third era. But, whatever. It's valuable to have him in the space. I mean, he's 1,000% correct about this. Like, you can, his model thinks that Biden can run a, sort of league average campaign. No, it can't. Let's be real here. You can't run a league average campaign. The thing, I'm going to use a tennis analogy because I'm currently watching Wimbledon, but this year's Australian Open final, Medvedev goes up 2-0, and he loses the third set. And I knew he wasn't winning that thing. I knew his legs were gone. And I tried to tell myself that no, maybe he could get it back. And I lied to myself, and I stayed up for another 3 hours to watch one of the most devastating sports losses. But I knew it. I knew it. I knew he had to win it in 3 sets, or he wasn't going to win. It's the same thing here. We can lie to ourselves. We can say, oh, maybe Biden has a chance. No, he doesn't. And again, I'm a Democratic hack. I don't say that to be funny. Although it is, I'm a Democratic hack.
Yeah.
You think I'm happy to come on here and say that Donald Trump's going to be president again? Of course not. But let's be real.
Well, I don't want to make this claim until I have everything buttoned down. But I just want to go back, because everything that's happened since, I think, is the blast radius of what happened 2 Thursdays ago has obscured the fact that this was a self-own by the Democrats. But I genuinely believe, and I've been going back and forth with people that are smart historians, that in the modern era, I don't really think there's anything close to the mistake that the Biden campaign made with that debate. Like, you can make your opinions known on whether or not you felt it was necessary, that it was a high variance gamble that you wanted to throw out there. But when you throw that high variance gamble out and it turns up snake eyes, I can't think of another campaign mistake that led to the sitting president being put into a possible 25th Amendment controversy. And that was the commentary afterward. It has now, after 2 weeks out of the campaign, now just simply settled on a possible Watergate level controversy. But there's nothing you can point to with this campaign that cements the major issues that they want to. And the first is abortion. I think that they have fumbled this from the very jump. The idea, I'll quote Biden, the very idea that you're going to run on Roe is on the ballot again after the thing happened that you were always worrying people was going to happen. You don't even have new messaging on it. Put me in, I'll make Roe the law of the land. No, you won't. You have no idea how to do it. You don't have the horses to do it. Number 2, the idea of democracy that you can't run. I don't know. I mean, I've been appalled by the idea that they have put so much faith in this Project 2025 thing. I think it is a bum steer. I think that Trump has outmaneuvered them on both abortion and the mitigation of how much of a disaster he would be. Credit to the Trump campaign. They have actually run a discipline unlike anything that they ran in 2016 or 2020. They are leagues beyond where they were before. But the unmitigated disaster of the Biden ticket does not give me any hope that the candidate doesn't and the apparatus doesn't, that anything's going to change. In fact, everything that I see in front of me is that it will get worse.
Yeah. The only mistake that comes even remotely close would be Al Gore's just complete cluster expletive of a VP choice in 2000. Because if he picks either Bob Graham or Janine Shaheen, he's the president, because he would have won either Florida or New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. All right, so let's road test this. The other two that I had was Trump arguing against mail-in ballots in 2020, which is a direct self-destructive thing that I think cost him in part the presidency. And then my friend Michael Cohen, the good one, wrote he wrote me and said, Dukakis not going on offense when he was being attacked was also another just glaringly obvious move that he didn't. But none of those resulted in people screaming, you need to be in a home tomorrow. And that's what happened with Joe Biden.
Yeah. And like the reason the democracy stuff, Matt, like pisses me off so much is if somebody is truly a unique threat, then you have to be willing to take unique. Then you need to be willing to put to listen to that and be able and act in a unique way. In the 2018 Ontario election, the Liberal incumbent premier ran a whole thing about how Doug Ford, crack mayor's brother, and now current premier, he was a unique threat to Ontario. Well, with 2 weeks left, her party went from first to third. She was in third in the polls, and so everyone's like, "Cool. So, are you going to listen to your own advice and endorse the second party to try and stop this unique threat?" And she went, "Nah, I'm going to spend the 2 weeks attacking both of them equally and just saying nothing of any substance." It's like, okay, so you didn't believe the thing that you were telling us. You didn't believe he's a unique threat because you decided to campaign like everything was dory. Well, no, I'm sorry, Joe. If Donald Trump is actually a unique threat, let Kamala Harris run. You have to let Kamala Harris run. If he's like that Stephanopoulos answer is going to has undone a decades of goodwill for Joe Biden with me, because I'm a gay man. I knew I was a gay man in 2012 when Biden went on Meet the Press and forced the administration's hand. And I have had a lot of respect for Joe Biden ever since. That Stephanopoulos answer that, it's good enough, if I give it my all. No, that's the answer that whoever loses this tennis match gets to give. That's not the answer you get to give to Donald Trump. Because if your whole thing is that you can beat Donald Trump and you alone, if you get that gambit wrong, then you have fundamentally messed up the republic. And you do not get to be this cavalier with a country that, for all of America's flaws, is still the shining beacon on the hill. And the idea that an old man is listening to not just convicted felon son, but like known bumbling idiot fail son. We're listening to D.C. James Dolan.
Who was on crack?
We're listening to D.C. James Dolan? That's what we're doing here? Get the out.
I mean, the two things that I thought in that Stephanopoulos interview that were unforgivable, and I mean that from his team. I mean that if anybody can talk to Joe Biden, he cannot say the following two things. And if you can't talk to him and he's going to say those things anyway, then he's actively harming your ticket's chances to win. Where number one, I didn't watch the debate, or he said, I can't remember if I watched it, or I don't think I watched the debate.
I don't think I did know.
Which is even worse.
That was the full quote.
I don't think I did know was whether or not he watched the debate. Everyone else did. There's a reason why you're doing this interview right now, Joe. You should probably watch up on it. And the fact that you introduced more, I can't remember whether I did, is another problem on top of it, right? And the second was that one, because the answer that seemed very clear from the jump is, George, I have worked in politics for over 50 years. My entire legacy is on the line. If I can't win this, if I can't convince the American people that Donald Trump is a unique threat, then people should look at me as a failure. At least lead. Be there so people can follow behind. And they can say, all right, well, maybe he's a figurehead. Maybe he's a corpse. But we're going to weekend at Bernie's this dude over the finish line because he, at least in his core, believes that that's the case. What we have gotten from him is out and out refusal to understand the lay of the land here. You know, when he's screaming at Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski over speakerphone while his aides shuffle papers in front of his face, that you're telling me the black vote's going away. Yes. Yes. Every survey that you have seen is generational coalitional damage to your party. And maybe it comes back, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe every way that a Democratic candidate has won the presidency since 1964 is gone. And it's going to be Joe Biden who let it happen.
There's yeah, all that's just true. California House Democrat has said in the private in the Democratic
meeting,
House meeting that he has seen private polling that shows Biden losing his Biden plus 26 House district.
I mean, that's where they're going to get slaughtered, right? Is you know, it's the California seats and it's the New York seats where, you know, the Democrats are the most worried, because that's the other problem here is that beyond the ticket splitting, if you have depressed turnout, like that's the one thing you know about Donald Trump, and this is in the sloppy campaigns. These aren't the campaign that he's running now, although there are serious questions about his turnout effort. But he turns out the low propensity voters. That's just a thing. And on his D&D character sheet, he gets a +10 on that. So if your turnout is lower because people don't believe in the top of your ticket, it's hard to get people to leave their house to vote for a senator or a representative. It's easier to do it to get them to vote for a president. And at that point, what you were saying before, you're hoping that Donald Trump or RFK can get them off the couch to go vote if they don't feel like they want to vote for Joe Biden.
It just this is just wild, because it feels like basically, I mean, it feels like everybody, there's no ideological sort of fault line in this debate, right? There doesn't appear to be a particular like ideological position or who you supported in the 2016 or 2020 primary thing happening here. It's just a whole lot of people looking at this and not being willing to deny reality. And the funny thing is this weird thing that like, oh, this is just like an elite preoccupation. I've got plenty of friends.
Old fighter Joe.
I've got plenty of friends who are, you know, fairly socially liberal guys, pay attention to politics, not loyal Democrats, because, you know, I write about sports and sports betting and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, since the debate, I've sort of taken a lot of these guys' temperatures. To a man, I don't think any of these people voted for Trump in 2020. Like, and every single person's like, this man cannot be president. This is not some like elite preoccupation here.
Yeah.
This is like we all live the debate, guys. You don't have to try and gaslight me that actually that debate wasn't exactly as terrible as it was. And frankly, I came on this show in February and said the notion of Joe Biden being a president at like, you know, in a second term is terrifying. And that was before we found out that he was skipping, you know, cocktail receptions at like 5 o'clock at the German embassy, or, you know, with the Germans, because he had to sleep.
Yep.
This is before all the things that we found out in the last two weeks. It's very obvious that he will not make it to the end of 2028.
I mean, the presidency is famously a vaporizer ray of life. We've watched it happen. It's an understood fact that the picture you take when you walk into the house and the picture you take when you walk out shows you have aged like 20 years. I can only imagine the toll that takes on an 81-year-old man right now. Like the concept of him going further is hard. It's and to be totally honest, if he had a superstar rock star cabinet that was really driving his approval ratings up, then maybe you'd say, well, it's the team. It's the team. You know, I listened to the Hacks on Tap podcast and their whole thing. It's, you know, Axelrod and Never Trump people, right? So all they are doing is fan crafting Biden strategies, and they've had to chuck them out the window one by one by one. And the last one that they really thought was getting purchased with the Biden campaign was Donald Trump's only for himself. Scranton Joe is for you. Now, it's a retread of what Obama ran against Romney, so I think Axelrod's a little, you know, sweet on it. But still, at least it makes sense. I can see where the fault lines are there. That is entirely out the window now because Donald Trump looks like the selfless one. Joe Biden looks like the egomaniac who won't let go of power. That's where we're at right now.
Joe Biden is undoing like generations of goodwill in the most ego-driven, egomaniacal decision being made in the worst and most counterproductive way. Because again, it's Joe Biden and Hunter who are making these calls. We're really letting
throw Jill in there. And by the way, I haven't mentioned a lot about Jill. I will say in my back channel with journalists, other people, it is a lot of nasty stuff has come up about Jill.
Did you see the reporting today that she had the Marine Corps band to make up basically a hail to the chief?
Yes.
For the First Lady?
For the First Lady. Nobody had ever done that before. Joe Biden has. This stuff is being drudged to the surface. I am the son of a single mother. I have a lot of sensitivities toward women in power being attacked because I do think that it tends to be a little trigger fingery. That being said, this Lady Macbeth stuff is coming for Jill. It is out there and it is nasty. It is going to be ugly because let's play this out. Let's say Joe Biden not only has Parkinson's, but he has other neurological things, right? Let's say that they have known for 2 years that this is the case and that we are already seeing these are the low-hanging fruit, the aides that are just running to Axios, that are running to the Wall Street Journal and telling their stories. Let's say that the ones that really have the good stuff, the closer to Biden people, that they start talking. And we start getting specifics on when the principals inside found out. It's going to all land on Jill because no matter what, Jill's the only person who could stop it. And the clips of her saying, you did such a good job, Joe, you answered all the questions. I don't care if they're optically fair or not. They are going to be the perception, and it's going to get gross. It's going to get nasty when it comes to her.
And the thing is that, you know, the creation of hail to the First Lady or whatever, it's that is one of those things that gets hung around somebody's neck and serves as the
or the Vogue cover 3 days after the worst debate in history that says we will decide our fate. Like, as that reads different when you read it like she's Lady Macbeth. We, the Biden family, will decide our fate.
Right, like Justin Trudeau, he created a national holiday for truth and reconciliation towards our indigenous people, made it a federal bank holiday. And the first year of it, he flew to BC to go on a vacation. And that is one of those things that just anytime people want to call him out of touch and an asshole, that's the one that gets brought up. And this is
number
what
one
that's going to
thing.
be, and it's going to hang around her forever. It's going to be her legacy, and she is going to be the Lady Macbeth of this, and this is going to end the exact same way Macbeth does, with both of them dying, and Baron Trump being emperor for 40 years.
I mean, real quick, because we do want to talk about all sides of this. I have been shocked. Somebody described it on Twitter as my favorite explanation, that Donald Trump shutting up for a week and a half is like the velociraptor learning how to use the door handle in Jurassic Park. Like, it is eerie that that's the case. There was reporting on this that Trump initially wanted to go into the spin room after the debate, which he has done in past debates, to be his own biggest surrogate, and then decided against it because he understood that the explosion that was happening around Joe Biden was something that needed to play out. We are just now at the point where they are about to tune this band up, and they've essentially, I'm going to take a wild guess that they have taken a week to retool their entire campaign, as much as it's going to be about the economy and the border, things that they are winning on that have now become the top two issues of the campaign. They're also going to drill in on all this character stuff with Biden. Like, the Trump campaign has been surgical on a level that I never thought could happen, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, for the Trump campaign, they should just like cancel the RNC and just send Trump to go watch the British Open, and then just like go do a tour of all his golf courses in Scotland, and just like leave him in the UK till like August at this point. He'll come back with like a 15-point lead.
Well, that was this. I've been getting some of the blue anon people in my Twitter mentions lately, because I will say this specific issue has animated an element of the fringe left that I have never seen before. You used to have to go and look them out. Now they're finding me. I don't know whether that's because my stature is raising any, or they're just more prevalent, but there is an element of barely coherent conspiracy theory left that very much believes like, oh, well, why aren't they covering Trump more? Trump's still posting. They're saying he's being quiet, but he's on Truth Social posting. And it's like, yeah, that's where he's allowed to post crazy stuff, because nobody cares about it. Like, trust me, if Donald Trump wanted to be the center of this story, he would be. That's what he does. And it was his natural instinct. He has sat around. He's going to do this Republican National Convention with a moderate platform, which again is the reason why the Democrats overinvested in this Project 2025 thing, for which he said, well, I don't like it. I have no idea what Project 2025 is. Then released a platform the next day, which has no federal mandate for abortion in it. First time in my lifetime that that's happened on a Republican platform. And other elements that are more moderate than they've been in the past. And the number one thing of that RNC, I will tell you, because I'm going to be there, it will be as normie as possible. It will be normie and with a shade of look at the energy. Look at how excited everybody is. It's going to be backslapping and champagne popping. That's what it's going to be. And then they're going to want that to be as golden hued as possible, because they want it to stand in comparison to what's going to happen in Chicago, which, good God knows what fresh hell awaits the Democratic Party in Chicago, the site of their most raucous convention in history.
I mean, whoever, whatever celestial being, picks these things, there is just a great, you can't tell me that there isn't some some form of man in the sky twisting fate that we have a Chicago DNC this year. Because the last two Chicago DNCs obviously were 68, the classic, cluster expletive, but then 96, yep. Which this campaign really has to feel like it could turn into 96 in reverse, where it's just every Democrat just.
Yes, we're there, Dole. Yeah,
Biden by Labor Day. Who do we think?
Well, is friends, I think it's Burgum. I listened to Trump on Hannity last night, which was kind of his grand reemergence, and he mentioned with the VP, number one, he said, which is the most Trump thing ever, that he has pushed, and apparently Tom LoBianco, who's on the show all the time, says this has happened since 2016. He very much believes that he should announce the VP at the convention. And I can only imagine that what he would desperately, really, really want is to do it reality show style, where they're all up on stage and Ryan Seacrest reads the thing, and then somebody has to go read the speech of their lives. That being said, at the end of it, he said, well, the one thing about the presidency or the vice presidency is I first want to get somebody that can do the job of president. And the second thing is to win an election. If you know Trump, you know Trump's branding, he doesn't care about this coalitionally. He doesn't need evangelicals like he did in 2016 with Pence. If he wants to sell to America, here's somebody that can be president, it's Doug Burgum. That's the most reads like a president dude on that short list. And who knows how much of this is going into the calculations, but Doug Burgum is a exciting enough pick for some of the never Trumpers that might, warm to it. It's like, at least he's a heartbeat away, in the same way that Pence did. But also he's not going to be Prince MAGA in the way that JD Vance would be. And I think the Marco Rubio stuff is literally just hand waving, so donors.
Yeah, I agree with that. Vance is just needlessly controversial for no real apparent gain. I mean, he literally underran Trump in Ohio in a red wave year, or in a R plus. I think the split ticket estimate is, once you correct, it's something like an R plus 1.5 year. I'm still going to stump for it should be Elise Stefanik, but I think Burgum is the other logical choice. Can I confess something that will make me seem really insane?
Sure.
It's a funny story. So I was on a call with somebody when I was about to write the VP column for the Lines recently, and I was trying to guess the predicted odds. And when I came to try to come up with Tim Scott's name, I accidentally said Ben Carson. Which is just really concerning, both for my ability to remember these to keep track of Black Republicans, but also like the fact that people thought Tim Scott was going to be the nominee for 2 days was one of the funnier mass DC delusions I've seen. They're not electing a guy who everyone in DC is convinced is a closet homosexual who's in the fakest engagement of all time. I'm sorry, they're not.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this, because when we talk about VP stuff, you always have to remember there's who's really in contention, which I never believe when you read these like postmortems about campaigns, there's never more than 2. It's one person, and then there's a countervailing candidate that kind of pops up usually toward the end, but it's never the list of 7 or 8. The reason why the list of 7 or 8 is there is because you are gifting these people for their loyalty the fact that in any feature that anyone else will write about them for the rest of their lives, there will be a sentence that says they were in the final consideration for the vice presidency.
I mean,
that's what this is.
Didn't Joe Biden get Karen Bass elected as mayor by quote unquote putting her on his short list when everybody
exactly
from
day one? There is a political utility to this, especially as people go forward. So I think that the Tim Scott conversation is thank you for knifing Nikki Haley in South Carolina. You're going to be mentioned in these lists as we go forward. I don't know what the amount of money that donors are talking about with Marco Rubio, but it's got to be a lot for the Chris Lasavitas of the world to be talking positively about Marco. Like, that is, there's got to be a tremendous amount of cash that they are trying to seduce by saying we are taking this man seriously. But ultimately, Burgum looks like George Washington. He's a rich guy. Trump loves a rich guy. And let me just say, as one of the probably 11 people that has watched Doug Burgum debate tape going back to North Dakota, he's a good debater. And he's a good one-on-one debater that we didn't really see in the gigantic cluster in the Republican primary when he tore his ACL before it. He got 11 seconds and they were apparently, without painkillers as his ACL was hanging. But when he's one-on-one, he's very good at technocratic answers. He kind of sounds more like a TED Talk guy. And I think that's going to play well against Kamala, for whom rhetoric tends to,
especially given that Kamala is going to have to do her damnedest Joe Biden 2012 impression.
She's going to have to swing for the fences.
She's going to have to do to Doug Burgum what Joe did to
Biden did to Ryan.
Do we have a date on the VP debate yet? Or is that going to be the final debate of the cycle?
No.
But isn't the first presidential,
maybe
isn't the September presidential debate like the week of like September 11th?
September 10th. Yeah, it's September 10th right now. So I would assume that, I guess they could rush it out and try to do it in between the conventions, because there's a pretty large gap between the conventions.
So what, you have one prime time, but then you're burning that before Labor Day, which feels, because usually the VP debate
they've already burned one.
Like, they're gonna want October. They're gonna want moments in October still.
I mean, the question then becomes whether or not there's going to be another debate, right? The political practitioner answer for Trump is, I will not be complicit with more elder abuse. I got what I wanted out of this selfishly, and I don't want to put the nation through that. I think Donald Trump could come out and say credibly, considering what happened last time, it's a national security threat for me to embarrass the president of the United States on television. I'm going to decline the next debate. And I don't think he's wrong. I don't think that it makes America safer when the president of the United States is melting like he drank the wrong cup in Indiana Jones.
It's also just evident to me that if it was truly a bad debate, if this were the Obama 2012, like what on earth did you do? Then you probably would hear Biden being like, yeah, let's schedule something for August, buddy. Like, let's do something between and he's not doing that because he doesn't have the ability to do that, because there's a reason he wanted two debates.
Well, and also be sure to call it a press conference immediately on Monday, right? Everybody screams, everybody yells. He calls a 2-hour press conference. He sits down, he answers questions, and
I
told you
that he should do the Arnold Vinnick, West Wing, Alan Alda nuclear power plant. Just going to take questions until you run out of them, so I don't have to talk about this thing anymore. But the Biden campaign doesn't seem to. Well, I mean, the Biden campaign. Again, what's going to be really interesting is when the campaign officials start leaking against Biden and start saying basically, we all had strategies to fix this, and they all got vetoed above us.
Oh, the campaign books this year. Good God.
Because the thing is, all of these people are going to need jobs again, and none of them are going to want to take the falls for.
They are going to knife each other, because it's not only going to be the campaigns, it's going to be the parties. It's going to be because also it obscures the fact that, you think Ronna McDaniel's not going to go out there and shred the people that threw her under the bus. Like this is going to be a banner year for the campaign stuff. And I think Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes have the belt for me of best campaign books. They did Shattered about 2016 and they did Lucky in 2020. But they are extremely well sourced in Biden world. And that's going to be a rich, rich vein when all this is over. Because I can only imagine what is going on right now, the panic that is going on. And that's, again, to go back to what I said on Substack, eventually the Bidens will be vilified. It's only a matter of when the Democrats want to begin pulling out the shovels and doing it.
Yeah, and Donald Trump is going to be the president at the 250th anniversary of America, which is both deeply hilarious to me because he's just like totally the wrong person to do this job. Like, think about it. Think about it. You'd want a president who's like got gravitas, and it's going to be Donald Trump is going to be leading what is, presumably going to attempt to be a big day of national whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to replace.
He's gonna have
his first 2 years because Alito and Thomas are going to retire, right?
We'll see. If there's one thing that we've learned about Supreme Court justices is they don't like being told nothing at all whatsoever. And I almost think that the attacks on Thomas have, like, every time that there's a story from ProPublica about Clarence Thomas's first thought is, you just bought yourself 5 more years, mister. I mean,
if that is a long con to get him to not retire during a Trump presidency, maybe there are still people in DC who can play 7-dimensional chess.
Now, Alito might just want to shut his wife up. Alito might. Yeah, Alito just might be like, you want to know what? Happy wife, happy life. I don't need these, 20-year-olds secretly recording her like she's a victim of, Project Veritas. Let's just live in Virginia alone and have a nice time without all of our crazy neighborhood drama spilling out into the front page of the New York Times. But yeah, Thomas, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I think Thomas feels alive right now. like when they were writing that immunity thing, and he's like, oh, by the way, I think special counsels are unconstitutional. Like, he's in his element.
He does love he does love to just take a majority opinion and just be like, and also another thing, just in case you're not weirded out about it. But then again, it's like, yeah, this would be the time if you wanted to cement that majority. But again, look, you can have your opinions. I have my opinions about packing the court. But if you're Joe Biden, I think it's political malpractice if you're raising this much attention about the Supreme Court to not say that you're going to do something about it. Like, what's the point of bringing it up? Unless you're going to say statehood for Puerto Rico and DC, or I'm going to pack the court. Like, do a thing. Especially given that, Democrats. So we've all talked about Democrats. The path to them winning the Senate is they need to win 2 of the following 3. They need to hold all the stuff they probably should hold, but they need to win 2 of Montana, Ohio, and Texas. Well, actually, they need to win all 3 of those now because they're not going to have the VP's vote. So,
yeah,
unless you think Colin Allred is gonna beat Ted Cruz in a R+3 year. Congrats, Senate Majority Leader Tom Cotton.
Yeah, I think Thune is the leader in the clubhouse right now.
Well, so it's the Johns. It's John Barrasso, John Thune, and John Cornyn. But
yeah,
I know Thune's, Tom Cotton has whipped votes in the past. So
yeah.
Oh, can I think Can I do my rant about how America is a fake? How 1776 is a fake thing? Can I do this, please?
Go ahead. On the way out. Let's do this. You already called us the shining beacon on the hill, so now you can talk some smack.
Okay. America counts itself becoming a country from July 4th, 1776, right? You didn't have an elected president until March 4th, 1789. So in the counting of American history, there's like 12 years and like 8 months where you just didn't have a president.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Either you can't count America as having been a country from 1776, or George Washington isn't the first American president, and we have to count the presidents of the Continental Congresses as American presidents. But this cognitive dissonance, you can't be a country and for north of 12 years not have a leader. That's not how this works.
So counter argument, 1776, rad number. Cool. It's a rad number, dude. Because it's like 777, but you have the 1 and the 6 that you can add up, right? So it's exciting. Leaves a little to the imagination. It's a rad number.
Cool. Then the Continental Congress is
Well, no, I mean, the 1776 is our called shot. That is us saying, bring it, bro, against our colonial overlords. And then, all the government, the sorting everything out. That's paperwork. That's not the fighting spirit. I'll
drop this if you would at least back me that Grover Cleveland should not count as 2 different presidents. Because that's also
what's your argument there?
It's not presidential terms, it's presidents. There have been 45 people to hold the office of president.
I'm with you. I actually don't like that. I think that there should both, if Trump is elected and Cleveland, they should just be the president, but they should not be
Trump should not be
45th and 47th. Yes. He should get 2 reigns, right? But he should be the 45th president that also served as the 47th term. And then the next person who comes along should be the 47th president. I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
I'm cool if you want to put him on the ruler, the tacky gift shop ruler that's in every DC hotel. Sure, put him on twice. That's fine by me. But no, that's not how this works. Sorry, these 2 things about America drive me crazy, and I don't have a place to complain about these to anybody
except for here.
So I just hijacked your show for a minute. Thanks
no
for
problem,
having me on, buddy.
Hey, anytime. What do you got cooking on the lines?
I've been doing a lot of F1. Been fairly profitable with the F1 stuff, but Olympics, obviously, I'm going to be helping out with that. I'll have miss the cut odds for the British Open next week. Have had a couple of big winners on that column in the major so far, so hopefully I can find another one. Political betting, obviously, going to be wrapping that up. General political writing, including America, Canada, and basically watching me have a mental breakdown as I have to deal with, semi-aborted coups in 2 different countries.
Look at that.
Scrimshaw Unscripted.substack.com. Just watch me have a mental breakdown live on live through those columns and on Twitter at eScrimshaw.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Evan Scrimshaw. And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics. Brought to you as always by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Big announcement. If you are in Milwaukee, then I need you to head on over to the Skylight Musical Theater website. We have a live episode of my panel show with Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney called We're Not Wrong. If you're not listening to that podcast, what are you doing? Listen to that podcast and then come to our live show. Look, we got 2 shows in the Midwest coming up in the next 2 months. and it will bring to an end our campaign. We have done live shows in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and now we are coming to both convention sites, Milwaukee and Chicago. Both of them are in the Midwest, and I'm going to need everybody that shows up. I know Midwest people are insane. Anytime I've done anything in the Midwest, there is always a contingent of people that have driven a ridiculous number of hours and then are going to turn around and drive right back afterward. I love the spirit of the Midwest. Head to the Skylight Musical Theater website. It's right there under shows and tickets. We're Not Wrong, July 19th, 7 p.m. That is the day after the convention. So you are going to get all of the dirty details of the Republican National Convention. And look, there's some stuff that I'm going to say on mic. There's other stuff I won't say on mic. And I am going to be live with you guys, hanging out all night long. It's going to be a great time. If you're in Milwaukee, if you're around Milwaukee, you're in Chicago, come on up, baby. Come on up. Milwaukee, Algonquin for the good land. I want to thank Evan Scrimshaw for being on the show. I want to tell you that if you want to email me, you can do so, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find and follow clips of the show on TikTok. I'm Justin R. Young. On Instagram, I'm Justin R. Young. On Twitter, X, I am Justin R. Young. And you can find us on the YouTube, burgeoning community there. Politics on YouTube. And by the way, I want to shout out, because we always ask for you guys to comment there on the YouTube video. I want to shout out Chris Joseph, who said, Biden will be president and nominee in a week. The waters will have cooled. I think he nailed it. I'm going to ask you guys this. Trump's VP pick. Pick the exact day and date. Right now, it is July 9th as I record this. So you have from now until about 7 days from now. That is when the convention will be in full swing. I can't imagine that he would make an announcement later than day 2 of the convention. So I need the day and date. When will Donald Trump name his VP? Head on over there. If you want to share this audio podcast with your friends, family, and clergy, it is px3podcast.com. Of course, you can hit us up with a one-time donation. If you like the fact that I am out here in these streets, then send one along. And I want to thank James. James just greased me with a slick C note. Bah! Just a hundo. Like a longtime fan. He's listened to everything I've ever done. And thank you, James. Thank you. This kind of stuff means the world. Without getting too far down the rabbit hole, as you guys are aware, my wife is expecting. As some of you are aware, my wife lost her job earlier this year. Yes, they knew. We're getting to the point where, despite a couple really amazing close calls, looks like we're going to buy ourselves some recovery time for her. We are good in terms of the ability to do that. Let me just say that as somebody for whom I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind right now, as I think anybody who's had kids can relate to. I cannot relate to it. I am now relating my opinions to you guys now. Just know that the support of this show means the world to me. Anybody who hits me with the one-time donations, thank you. Thank you. Again, Venmo, that is Justin-Young-20. PayPal is paypal.me/payjury. Cash App is PX3Cash. You can send me anything you'd like in the mail. P.O. Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Of course, you can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That $3 tier gets you 2 bonus podcasts per week covering all the news we miss on our free podcasting schedule. And it's good stuff now. Like, we've been doing these early in the week because we're covering essentially sort of a standoff, a breaking news element to the fact that the president's campaign, if not presidency, is possibly in crisis. That means that there's a lot of stuff that's probably going to happen that's going to get covered exclusively on the Thursday episode. So if you want to get it, then go ahead and get it. And if you want to get your name read at the end of the show, you go ahead on over to takepoliticsseriously.com and you sign up at the $10 level. That is our Titanic $10 tier. SingletreeTravel.com, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Devon, the CFP, Gloria, Gray Zone, Peepaw, Jay, Sugar Brady, Marcus with a Q, DP4 Bongo, Sam, John, Niemeister, Edwin, and vote Gloria Young for King of the New World Order, Edison Jeremy, a dog named Checkers, Sarah Jeannie Matthew, Dr. G, Neil is Nerdiness Charles, Audrey stole Adler's spot, Darren, Idris Arslanian, Bluefront and the Lenina, Berkeley Stephen, Chad, Zombie Doc, Matt, Chill, Adam, Chief Andy, Robert, Casey, Paul, Dustin, Brad, D Laser, Nick, Just Another Pilot, Middle-Aged Mike, Utah, Jimmy Montana, The Jen, Alo, D, Really, Craig, and Andrew. You want your name read? One place to do it. Take politics seriously. .com. That's it. And that's all. Will we do an episode on Friday? We will find out. Right now, confirmed, the only episode that we are doing will be Thursday morning for patrons. And then Joe Biden has his, as they called it yesterday, this is not me editorializing, his big boy press conference on Thursday. Depending on how that goes, I might do a little bonus extra for the extra, but that'll be news dependent. That'll go out on the free feed. Till next time, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics, but this is the only show that dares discuss three.